here's the kit straight out of the package. Each kit contains all the components to make one 4-story wall section. I have 2 kits shown here. The pilasters and windows are on one piece. The brickwork is on a separate section. The acetate for the windows is included, and the concrete wall section is on its own piece. The big advantage of this configuration is that you can assemble all of the concrete panels and cover the seams with the pilasters totally separately, and then they're all ready for painting, and there's no masking involved and no finicky detail painting. You can paint the brickwork separate and all your concrete separate and the windows separately, and just use a simple spray bomb, as you'll see. You can see I haven't done any previous loosening of this, but the pieces are held in place by just a small piece of sprue, and it's so fine that you can basically punch these pieces out with just your fingers. And the wood here is 1/8 inch thick, so you don't have to worry about breaking it at all. And now, just to make sure that there's no fine little sprues left over, just take a file and just run it across the file. Do the same for this piece. Now save these sprues because they make great supports or to strengthen the pieces from behind. Let's remove this one from the sprue now. And we're going to get the pilaster covers ready. Let's just put this other materials aside. Okay, and I have just an X-Acto knife here, and this also is held on with just small little pieces of sprue. I can actually push them out with my hands as well. Just making sure there's a little hair here of sprue left over. And I'm going to use one of these. This is the widest piece of pilaster cover, but we have 2 of the narrower pieces which are can be used for covering 90-degree corners. Cut those out. That just pops out like that. Okay, and I'm actually going to use the skinny one as well. See, that just pops out. No need for filing there. Those are so clean you can't see any hairs or little nubs left on those. Let's put those aside. Okay, I'll put the brickwork aside for now. Those are pretty much ready for painting as is. So I have my 2 wall sections here. Make sure you leave you can see the seams are etched on this one on the outside. The other side is completely smooth. So we have them all on the outside. Those 2 sections are going to fit together like that. You see the laser cutting is so precise, you basically don't need any filing to get a really good fit. And we're going to cover that seam anyways. So I take my glue. I like to use this Elmer's Extreme. It's just a standard white glue. This one is a little bit thicker and sets up a little quicker than just your standard white glue, but Any white glue will do in a pinch. I like the applicator on this as well. So then we just a little bit on the seam. We don't have to be too precise because this is going to be covered up. But you can see the key joint makes it so easy to fit these together. No difficulty aligning the two pieces. No precise gluing required. Spread that out a little bit. And those just fit together like so. Make sure it doesn't stick to the paper. Now, actually I'm going to do this piece next along the top. Now this piece is going to go over the seam. So again, this piece is etched as well. So there's some etchings here and on each story. So we just make sure that all those etchings line up together with the concrete sections. And I'm just going to mark this one here. So where I want to cut that. Let's try this again. Too much glue there. If you got too much glue, you can use a little damp cloth on it. That's not going to harm the wood. Just make sure it's not too wet. And let's just put a little bit of weight on here. And we'll let that set up and get nice and hard. And that is pretty much ready for paint. Okay, let's look at how we do the windows. The windows come on these sprues as shown here. They have some knockouts still left in the windows that you can use for like if they were broken windows. So before we paint them, I like to just knock those out of the windows. I've done some here. They're just held on by really thin little tabs. So you just have to give them a little push and pull them out of the windows. Leave the window still on the sprue. So I just go through and take all of these out. And then it's just a matter of spray painting the windows here. I've used Krylon Ultra Flat, the camo paint, the dark brown one, which is good for a lot of applications, weathering your track and other items. So anyways, that's one I use for the windows. Comes out almost black looking, and you can see on the ITLA windows the center section is held on by a little tab, and you can actually angle that open. So but yeah, that's your windows all done, and they're ready to insert. So they just come off the sprue. Use a little knife. Don't have to clear any tabs or anything. And that's your windows ready to go. Now, if you want to do the broken window effect, you can take these little tabs, and I put them on some tacky surface. I have some two-sided tape on here. I've used it. I use it for painting details. Let's put a two-sided tape on it. In this case, I've used plastic, but I put cardboard or something like that, and then just tape my items to it, and then you can just paint those with a craft paint or whatever you like, just to give them a different color, like a faded gray would be good, or a green or something. So you paint those. We'll do that, and I'll show you the installation of the windows later and the installation of the blanks. Now, for the last section, we've looked at the concrete, which is now painted, and the windows, and the other element we have to do is the brickwork. So this is one panel there. I'll show you how we do that. So this is the way it comes on a sprue. I'm going to paint them while they're still on the sprue, all the brick panels. Just put those aside for now. Now, I just use simple craft paint for this process as well. In my case, for my bricks, I use a brick red. This one is a barn red and a burnt sienna, which is kind of a brownish red color. So I've mixed this, or put the three of them in a paint tray here, and I just like to put these on in a random kind of pattern. By combining the three colors, you get some variation in the brick, so they don't all look like they're one matte color. This brush is fairly stiff bristle, so it's getting down into the grooves of the brickwork. This is the beauty of the ITLA. It's on a sprue by itself. You don't have to be, no masking. You don't have to be neat about it. Just make sure it's not globbed on there and getting in the grooves too much. The paint's a little thick, just add a bit of water to it. Okay, so that's it. That's the brick. I'm just going to set this aside to dry. Now, this one I did earlier, and it's already dried, and I have given it a coat of Tester's Dull Coat. Any kind of enamel coat will seal in the the acrylic paint so that we can now do the mortar mix. Okay, for the mortar, I like to use the Roberts brick mortar formula. It's just kind of a white, soupy plaster kind of mixture. So I just mixed it up really well, and we just put that on and push it around into the grooves. I've used a gray craft paint. I mean, there's lots of items you can use. The ITLA grooves are nice and square cut with the laser, so it gets in there really good. You're not going to pull it all out when you wipe this off. And now we can just try a damp cloth and wipe that off. You can see that's leaving the mortar in the grooves and cleaning off the brick surface pretty good. So that's going to be weathered later on, and yeah, I think that looks pretty good. We'll just set that aside to dry, and these are pretty much ready to go. Now you just pop them out of the sprue. You can see the mortar mix is still there on the edges, and those are ready to insert into our wall panels. Let's now look at the final assembly of the wall structure. I have the windows painted, the glazing, the brick is painted now, the concrete section is painted. I've just added these two pilaster covers on the outside. Those would normally be added before I paint them, but for demonstration purposes I added them after. And I have the painted little window knockouts as well, and we'll install those later. So some of these were just finished with some of the brick mortar mix. That's why they look sort of white and chalky, and this is just the backside of the wood. I mean, you can do them any color, it doesn't matter what you use. So I've made this just a flat surface because I've put some bracing on the back of these panels, and so it can sit flat on the table. If you were to not add the bracing or add it after the windows, that's perfectly fine. In this case, I just happened to add it first, so I just got this piece of wood so that I can sit the windows or sit this wall section directly flat on a surface. Because we're going to take the windows now, and they just fall out of the sprue, or two little cuts on the outside. They're going to go flat. They fit right in the hole. Just make sure that they're down flat on the surface. And now you can either tack them in place from the front side, which is what I like to do, is very easy, and I ensure that it's flat. So this is the Faller laser cut, but you can get these applicators by themselves and just fill them with a white glue, or maybe add a little bit of alcohol or something to the glue to make it a little bit thinner and go through the applicator more easy. And I just touched up in the corners or along the edges so that stays in place. And then for the, so we'll let that set up just a little bit, and then we'll take our brick sections. Now we need a small brick section here. Those just pop out of the sprue quite easily. There is a slight barb in there. We'll see how it fits. It should fit even without any filing or whatsoever. So yeah, that's going to fit okay. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on this on the front side. On the edges, sorry. I'm just gluing the little bit along the edges. Actually don't even have to glue it on the before we start. That's just going to go in flat as well. Now you can do them completely flat with the face, or you can try and push them through so that the brick sets in a little bit and the concrete sticks out a little bit. Either way, there's no right or wrong way to do this, however you like the appearance. So you can see the window is already set up flat on there, and now we just turn it over. Now if you were doing, we could do more windows at this point. We could do complete brick sections. So if I had a full brick section and you didn't want a window here, the brick sections go in there just like so. So you can see how that just sits right in place. And then we flip this over. If you're lighting the structure, sometimes you'll get a little bit of light penetration through this gap. So you can either fill it with glue or put a piece of tape over top of it on the back, or even paint it a little bit. Either way, it's fine. And then now for the glazing, we're going to put that in. These are already cut for you. You don't have to cut them out of a sheet or anything. And this one has the window panel cut as well. And it's going to loosen this up so it's not cut on the corners, because I do want to angle this window so that it does flex. There's two little points on the side that this window flexes. So we're just going to take some glue for glazing again, just in case we get it on the glazing portion. Now I'm gluing all the way around the seam so that it's holding the window in place too. And I'm going to touch some of the areas in the middle of the window too. Glue the seam where the window is going to, you don't want any glue on that area, but it's fine to put some of this glazing glue along the battens. I like to do the dull, I don't like my windows totally clear. And I don't see too many buildings with really clean windows. Now when we put the glazing on, you want to make sure that that center square lines up with the square on the window. Otherwise it won't flex properly. And that's all there is to it. So the glazing is done. The brick panel, we've put some extra glue on the back. This one I'm gonna put a window in there later. But that is it. That is your finished panel, how it looks. Then we'll wait for the glue to totally dry or set up, and then we can go back and carefully angle this window once the glue is pretty solid, holding that in place. Now we can, before we're totally done, let's put some of those window blanks in place. I like to do this totally random. So let's do 4 of them. Let's put the glue right on the glazing. And these should just drop right in place. A little push. They're set right in. And that's it. Simple as that. Boom. So you can see how simple that is. No masking. We didn't have to do any masking of the windows, of the blanks. Everything just goes right in place. And now that's ready for weathering. If you're interested in a more advanced weathering and structure build, you can have a look at my other video, which I'm going to be posting on the Advantech packaging extension, which will be done with the industrial wall sections as well, but I'll be doing much more detailing and weathering in that video. Thanks for watching.